Silence! I can't. Oh, I did that today. We were like shoveling snow at work. No, okay, sorry. No, I fixed my audio. I accidentally had mine muted for like the first 3 or 4 seconds. But I'm good now, so. Oh. Wait. I will fix this. My apologies. Okay, now we have. All right, now you're good.
Conquer Worm, if you want to fire somebody, this guy right here. This guy's the one you fire right here.
Fire.
Mr. Yeah, that's right. So this week,
gonna
we're
mute
going to
you
cover,
again.
cover some stuff on this one. So first of all, we had a pretty exciting weekend. We went to the March for Kids, parental rights rally here in Calgary, and it was definitely very unexpected. We have to catch you up on what happened because it was pretty nuts. And some of the stuff that happened was pretty nuts. We have some video and some little bit of commentary on the whole thing. You don't want to miss that. Also, it looks like Orlando has a new 11-year-old Grand Marshal, and it is a gender confused wolf, or child, basically one of those things.
One of those things.
One of those things is not like, something's not right here. Karine Jean-Pierre continues her stint as the world's worst press secretary. The White House basically slams Iran. Iran apparently is always in sights, and are we working towards World War III? We might, because apparently it's all about Iran. And hostages in Gaza are released. Does that mean that Hamas is now good? Are they the good guys? We'll have to discuss that. And finally, a couple stories, but more importantly, Alaska Airlines pilot Joseph Emerson went a little nuts, and people almost died. So, yeah, we're gonna have to cover that story. So, lots of stuff to cover today on the Crude Dudes podcast, Tuesday edition.
All right, so we are back for another Tuesday Newsday, as Danny has said.
That's right.
And as Danny also said, we are going to be mostly discussing the events that transpired on Saturday. Thankfully, there was not the kind of craziness that happened back in March when I went by myself to one of these rallies. But some insanity still progressed, and of course, we are back like a heart attack. Now, if you wish to follow on with the live stream, you can check us out on Twitch and Twitter. And of course, if you want to ask us questions, commentary, inquiries, all of the above, then you can send us a message, send us a chat on Twitch, and we will check it out on air, and you can see our reaction live.
That's right. And by the way, for all the people from the Saturday March, for the Rainbow Mafia and all that, hi. Good to see you. Welcome to the show. I'm sure you're probably wondering what we covered. Don't worry, we'll get to that. Just keep watching.
Yes. Do not worry. I'm still watching.
Yeah, and Steven definitely got me, pretty close to getting some action. So
yeah,
thanks for that, Steven. Thanks for that.
I do what I can.
That's right. So it's a package deal here.
Yep. Okay.
So what do you got there?
What do we got? Well, we started off with just a little video from Freedom Tunes, just to sort of open up before the insanity truly begins.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a video about illegal immigration and how the Democrats feel about it. So let's watch in. I think abject horror would be probably the best way to term it, but
I mean that is a solid way to watch.
Yes.
Honor, the evidence is overwhelming. This man went through painstaking lengths to enter this man's home. He cut through the fence, smashed the windows, and crawled inside through broken glass, bleeding all over the floor. DNA and video evidence puts him right there. Does it sound to you like the occupant consented to let him in?
You're right. Sir, I have no choice but to find you guilty of not inviting him over.
You're sick.
Solid. By the way, I think that
South
applies more. Well, thank you, Ben. I think that applies more accurately to Canada.
Oh yeah.
If you really think about it, because Canada actually, like Canada, legitimately, they do punish, like people for having people break into their house. There have been stories in Canada
Yep.
of people that have been charged after the criminal broke into their house, got injured, and then they sued the people that they were trying to rob, and they won. Like that's Canada for you, by the way. So I think that's a very apt way of describing how Canada works. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So-
Well, no, that was actually one of the first things that I was proud of back in 2019 when the UCP actually took over. The first action of Casey Maydew when he was Justice Minister was there was a case of a man who shot an intruder who was trying to steal his truck, and he shot him. He didn't try and aim to kill him. He actually shot, and he aimed a warning shot, and it ricocheted off his granary and hit the invader in the forearm. And then the invader sued him for emotional damages and physical and the lost wages due to him not being able to work with buckshot in his forearm. And the NDP took it to trial, and I think he was facing about $400,000 to $500,000 in the lawsuit.
The guy's name, I think it's the correct one. This is from September 25th, this was in 2019, correct?
Yeah. Well, it happened. The event happened, I think, in 2014. The event happened earlier, but Casey Maydew threw it out.
Yeah, the story is from 2019.
Yeah.
So the guy was suing Maurice for more than $100,000.
Oh, okay. So it's less than I thought.
Pain, all this other stuff from the whole thing and all that kind of stuff. There are places where, in the States, where I heard them talking, West Virginia, some places in Texas, and other places where somebody steps on your property for any reason.
Stand your ground law or castle doctrine.
It's like bam.
Yep.
You everything you do to them is like they said in The Simpsons. It's and once they come into your house, everything you do to them is nice and legal.
That's illegal.
It's is that so? Oh, Flanders.
Well, yeah, and then the other case from Canada that I think about when I hear about this sort of situation is I think of that famous case in which Trudeau intervened, or no, he basically lamented as to the loss of proper justice. And it was the case when these indigenous individuals went onto this guy's property and were trying to steal his truck. Right. And he fired a warning shot into their vehicle in the dark. And they had a friend of theirs who was passed out drunk and high.
In the back seat, right?
No, in the front seat.
Oh,
but
okay.
he didn't see him because it was 2 a.m. and the truck was off. And then this guy died. And the prosecution were oh, yes, this was a racist, a racially motivated attack. It's
of course.
No.
Because if you're a CRT believer, you believe that any kind of negative outcome
between a white person and an indigenous person is automatically racist.
It's automatically the cause is racism. Yeah. Always. Yeah. If a black person or native person gets shot, it's racism. Well, what were they doing? Doesn't matter. It's racism.
Yeah, doesn't matter.
It's
racism.
He was about to stab me in the chest, racism.
Well, yeah, talking about racism and stuff like that. The case of Makia Bryant.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this girl is about to stab this other chick. It's racism that he shot her.
She's literally mid-stab.
Yeah, mid-stab.
In the midst of about to stab her.
Yeah.
The knife, and the guy shoots her. He's really he reacts really, really intelligently. But they're oh, it's racism out there. He should have de-escalated. I'm yes, he showed up.
He showed up as
5 freaking seconds to do anything, and before the girl's already going around to stab somebody. I'm
I remember watching that. I'm there isn't I don't think you could. It's hard to find a more clear-cut case of yes, he's totally in the right.
That's what police officers are there
are
to
meant to do.
Yeah. By the way, that was also like one of the few times that like Steve, like the Louder Crowder got a strike on
Yep.
on YouTube because they were essentially saying, they said something like, like it's like some people call that racism. I call that a pretty good shot.
Yep.
And they got a strike from YouTube. And I was
Yep.
like, dang, man, dang.
All right.
But
Well,
speaking
things
of,
that might get
these
us
kind
a
of
strike.
things, So, so here's a couple of thoughts. So me and Stephen went to the march on Saturday. Stephen, tell us what was going on at the march. What was the whole story? And tell me what you told me, because I didn't even know this.
Okay, so so I just actually discovered this while kind of like doing some research and background stuff. So the march, as we highlighted last week, was the 1 million March for Children. And of course, this is against SOGI 123, against gender ideology in schools, and for proper age-appropriate sex ed curriculums, and for being able to tell parents and not having teachers be able to hide information about their children, anything that their children tell them, that teachers cannot keep secrets from parents, because parents care far more about children than teachers do.
Yeah, but like the counter protesters were there early, and apparently they weren't supposed to be there, were they?
Yes. So the event was at Calgary City Hall, as we outlined last week during the show. It was supposed to start about 1 p.m. And what happened was the counter protesters, the kind of Rainbow Mafia, they showed up quite a bit, really quite early.
Yeah, because I was
before the event was supposed to start, and they had basically set themselves up in the spot where the protesters had kind of made their appeal, they had gotten permits for loudspeakers, they had gotten permits to have the event, so they were legally allowed and entitled to be there. And the counter protesters showed up and said, "Nope, we're here. You have to leave. You have to go somewhere else." And of course, that's not how protests work. You can't just set up.
That's actually how bullies work.
Yeah, that's how bullies work. And so the protesters are like, "No, we have permits. We arranged this with the city, and so you have to force them to leave. Like, they have no legal right to be here. We do. So tell them to get out under like penalties." And the police are like, "Well, how about you just move over a little bit?
Can't we all just share? This is like
Let's share
argument.
this space."
It's the whole ceasefire argument that they're using right now with Israel
It is
and
the
Hamas.
ceasefire.
It's like, well, they basically started this, and they're the ones in the wrong. It's like, well, ceasefire. Oh, ceasefire. Now, just everyone, just like, we're just gonna pretend like nothing happened. Just peacefire. So yeah. So here's so by the way, this video is on my personal Facebook, not on the Shrewd Dudes thing. Part of the reason is because like I'm always worried about like doxing, because the way that these people operate. But let's go into the actual video. I want to show you guys like a little bit of like some of the highlights of some of the footage I got. I got 2 videos that I took. One of them is much longer. One was live video. This is the actual recorded video that I took when I first arrived. So you can start playing, Steven, and I'll tell you where to go.
Yeah. Now, and then after your Facebook videos, we're going to discuss the Western Standard.
Yeah,
incident.
we'll talk about that too, because I didn't know
that's
about that.
nuts. Oh, I didn't know about that until today, and I was like, no freaking way.
Oh yeah. Calgary
All right,
is
so
absolute...
timestamp.
So you can start playing just to kind of show people like like what it was like early before it all started. You already had the police there. Of course, you already had the Rainbow Mafia on both sides of the road. That's how many people there were. I was actually concerned that they were. I was concerned. I was like, I wonder if it could be an actual like rally, because there were so many Rainbow Mafia people there. I was like, I don't know. So, if you can pause there, and go to the 5-minute mark. So, like, I walked around for a little bit, like, showed around, took video of the crowd and all that. Go a little bit before that. Go to the like 5. Yeah, right there's good.
Okay.
So just to set this up, okay. So you have to remember, me and Steven understand that when you go to these things, all of these groups, whether they're Antifa, whether they're like Black Lives Matter, whether they're pro Palestine, whether they're LGBT groups or whatever, they all have the same MO. They don't talk to you. They obstruct, so they always put like obstacles in front of your way, and then so there's no point talking to them because they're not going to They're not going to talk anyways.
Yeah,
there's no point. So what I did is I basically just started taking. I just had a video rolling with my camera, and I just wanted to like take it so I could capture them in their element doing their thing, because one of the rules that we talked about is they have a hard rule among their own groups. They don't video each other. They only video the enemy. They never video each other. That's how they know that if you're not one of them. Because I wasn't wearing anything specific. I was just wearing regular street clothes.
Yeah.
So they have no way of identifying me as anything pro or against, other than the fact that they just saw that I had, that I was videotaping them. That's how they knew. Like, oh, he's not one of us. So you can start here. This is what happens when you basically try to walk around them, and you essentially they basically take ownership of the space that they occupy. So it's like a very specific zone, and you're not allowed in there. So you'll find out. I found out the whole. We're here taking video very calmly, nothing. See the cops there. And one of the guys sees me right here. If you see that guy there,
I think you're on the wrong side.
he sees me, comes right up to me. That's the real thing, right? I just ignore him. Now watch what happened here. As soon as I try to walk around him, here.
Go the other way.
We would kind of prefer that people who think hate speech is cool stay on the hate speech side.
He paused there. You hear what she said? Oh, I was just walking through. I wasn't talking. You can pause.
Yeah.
You hear what he said?
What he said?
They said like what the girl said. She
Oh
said
yeah, what
that,
the girl said.
anybody-
Those promoting hate speech should stay on the hate speech.
Those who love hate speech just stay on the hate speech side. So already they're already like labeling you as the hateful, horrible. Like this is they're so fluent in indoctrination that that's what they do. They automatically you're automatically hateful. It's dehumanizing language. That's how they operate. But what happened there? I was basically just walking, taking the video. The guy basically tries to get in my way. This is what they try to do. They try to get in your way, and they try to obstruct. So what you do is I don't try to push my way through. I try to go around. And because he tries to follow me, I try to go around, but I try to go around quickly, so he doesn't have the opportunity to block me. And as soon as I try to go around him quickly, suddenly he sticks his elbow out, and everyone just kind of congregates on me all at once, and they're all like, "Oh, you can't go in here!" Oh, I call it swarm, and the police actually you weren't they gaslighted me you
were not swarmed.
You were not swarmed. It's like, stop being crazy. And I'm like, oh yes, I'm the crazy one. Anyways, so that was my first encounter with them. Their less than friendly ways and all that.
Yeah,
they have a very hard line. It's like they're so adamant about rejecting people that are not part of their group that they will literally block you, yell at you, scream at you. By the way, is it considered assault or a form of assault if somebody comes up to you and bangs something in your face or
depends on the decibels, and it depends on the kind of length of time. And if you can sort of purposely, if you can can actually prove that it was purposely meant to harm you. So it'd be really hard to actually do that with banging a pot. But it can be done with some of these charges were kind of contemplated during the September 20th event in Ottawa. Because at least I think it was at the September 20th event, because there was a lot of really loud artificial noisemakers. And they were being put it right into people's ears.
Yeah, and that's the thing. These people don't care about being nice or polite or something like that. Go to the 6-minute mark here, Stephen, really quick.
Yep.
I want to show you what the officer said, because I thought it was interesting. I was actually talking to this officer. I mean, she seems nice, but the same time, it kind of shows you a little bit about how their MO.
Mm-hmm.
You can go ahead and play that.
I didn't. Oh,
You did not get swarmed.
Came all at once. That's what I meant. So like I was like the people were like coming around me, so I was like, okay, walking away, going around them, and then suddenly they.
Sir,
Yep.
okay, they don't want you as part of their group right now.
Okay.
They're identifying you as not part of their existing group, so we're asking you not to intervene with that group.
Okay. I was trying to avoid interacting by going around, and I didn't realize that they basically created a basically a corridor.
You're free to walk this way.
Which is the appropriate path?
Okay. You can tell I'm being a little bit difficult.
Like,
you are
on purpose.
Okay, so I'm not allowed to walk through anywhere that they occupy essentially.
Not at this moment, no.
Okay.
Not at this
So
moment.
basically, is there any signage anywhere that I can follow to know what the like the prescribed like path is, like just so I know like not to do it in the future? Because I mean, you walk through, you don't know. There's no sign saying I can go this way, I can't go this way. I was like, is there?
That's 100% fair.
Okay, so I just
Gave me
looked out
that.
for you guys
She
and
gave
then
it to
I'll know
me.
which way to go.
Signage right now, but what I can tell you based on the demographics of the two protest groups that we have right now, okay, this group is identified to us that they don't want you part of that area. We're asking you respectfully to walk around.
Okay, so basically, like, so the area
you
where
go.
they are specifically, that's basically a no-go zone. Essentially, like it's a no-go zone. Like you can't go in that area when they are in that area.
If there's going to be a conference. Try and just listen to the.
Oh, sure, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
We're asking to not have a confrontation.
Okay.
Okay,
So
that's what that
I
is.
can avoid a confrontation
Yes.
by not going into a no-go zone.
An area where we're asking you not to go.
So they're not asking
You
me.
can tell
they're
she
asking
knew
me.
what I was doing,
yeah.
which is fine. Which is
We asked you
fine.
not to be part of that.
Okay, well, like they
You can
asked
pause
me
there if you
when
like.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, what I was trying to get her, trying to like at least to try to like demonstrate through what I was like, I was trying to walk her to show her what you've done is you've essentially established a no-go zone, which is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
A no-go zone is an area where the police refuse to basically like intervene, and where they basically tell the public avoid that area. We're essentially not operating within that zone, and we're not going to basically like essentially they've given them permission to obstruct a public space. That's basically what they've done. Like imagine if you're walking down the sidewalk and somebody's obstructing the sidewalk. Like the police be like, well, they told you not. They don't want you to be part of their sidewalk, so you have to go around. It's like, wait, what? Like they're not allowed to like obstruct sidewalks, and like, well, except for them, they're allowed to obstruct. So that was one thing I was like, yeah, it seems kind of skeevy that they're just basically letting them do that because like obviously they understand that I'm not actually instigating, but like they're basically letting these people like harass and obstruct people like at will kind of thing. So it shows you which way they're operating already. One last thing I want to show Stephen on this video really quick is go to the 1330 mark, and that's the last thing of this video I want to highlight. 1330. You'll know immediately what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one of the best examples of the nonsensical cognitive dissonance in the people at this in the rainbow crowd. This girl was dancing before with a little scarf and like smiling about like how much love is while holding up a middle finger. And this is where I encounter her again. Here, watch what she does here.
I don't give you permission. I don't give you permission. Now this is going on the internet. I'm not taking
Oh yeah, very lovely girl. She's recording me.
Yeah.
We got the middle finger.
Doesn't matter.
I don't give
Doesn't
you
matter.
permission yelling while she's holding up her camera.
I don't give you permission to film me.
Hold on, can you smile?
Can you smile?
Yeah. I said that. I totally I had to say that. I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
The funny thing, the reason I said, "Can you smile?" And I'll show you why. Is because if you go back to which just go to the 10 minute 5 second mark. Just show that 10 minutes 5 second mark. This is what she was doing before when I first saw her. This is what she was doing. Little girl's here.
Yeah. Wow.
Loading.
I'll refresh the page.
And 10 minute 5 second mark.
Why is it having issues with loading right now? I don't know.
Not sure.
It's not an issue with connection.
Uh-oh, maybe Facebook's censoring the video in real time.
I don't even know.
Would that be feeling?
Maybe we can. And
Well,
I
if
can't
it doesn't
even, I
load,
can't
that's
even
fine.
pause. Well, now I can pause it. Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
if it doesn't load, that's fine. Okay, so basically, this is that one was the one that kind of like made me crack up. I was like, because I'm recording. It obviously everyone's recording. She's like, I don't give you permission, and I'm like, I don't.
Doesn't
care.
matter.
Like, you don't get to ask for to demand
Yeah.
that permission. It's the way it works, right?
Yeah.
So, speaking of the permission thing, that girl was just being passive aggressive. This person was actually a lot more, like, a lot more kind of threatening.
Yeah.
This guy was so this is the live stream video. This is a longer video. Go to the 9 minute and 35 second mark, Steven. So this is like I just walked around the live stream. Go to the 9 minute 35 seconds. Yeah. So this guy, you have to remember, I was literally just filming.
Yeah.
Just generally, just the people around.
Okay.
I wanted the people to be able to see what was
I'm
going on.
gonna try
there.
and just. I'll shut down the browser and then I'm gonna bring it back in just a second.
Reload it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just remember, like a lot of people at these protests, these counter protests, if you watch enough of them, like, which I do, like you watch the one that happened in Hamilton, where David Menzies needed like actual security to go there. I don't know if you saw Stephen Adam Seuss was at this protest at the
Yeah, he was.
Calgary one, and he had a big bouncer next to him.
Oh yeah. Well, no, they have.
What?
Rebel News has security with all their stuff now.
They have to. And actually, I heard that David Menzies, when he was in the Hamilton protest, the one with the one for like Palestine,
Yeah.
that there was actual attempts to like to rush him or to tackle him, and that his bodyguards actually stopped it,
Yeah.
which demonstrates like it's we're moving into a country where it is considered acceptable to basically just like hurt people if you don't like them. That's kind of like the world that we're getting into, which, oh man, it just really sucks.
It does.
Can you share your screen again on Discord and we can
Yeah.
go into it?
Sure.
See what you're... Thanks, man. All right, so back to the 9:35. So again, little context. All I was doing is standing there, not talking to anybody, not bothering anybody, literally just standing there, just taking like do my video so I can show people, so people at home can see what was going on. And out of nowhere, from behind me, this guy walks up to me. I've never met him before. I don't even know who he is, but he walked up right behind me and just started interrogating me. So watch what he 9:35.
There, 9:30.
9:35.
Got a reason that you're filming people here? You're filming people for a reason, or you making a documentary? What's your deal? What are you doing here?
Hello, nice to meet you.
I'm not talking to you. Either are you
I'm
filming
not
people who
talking
have
to
not
you.
consented to be filmed? What are you doing here?
Filming because I'm from
Does
Calgary.
everybody else see this guy filming you? Does everybody see this guy filming all of you right now? Do you see the guy currently filming all of you? Do you see this? Yeah, I see him. Don't talk to this guy.
I'm not talking to anybody.
Just filming him, not you. He's hanging out here because what? You couldn't get a date in high school? Fuck him.
Very civil.
Oh no, I was staying here by myself, and he
there,
came
you
up to
stop
me,
there.
so I tried not to like escalate. Yeah.
You can stop there,
No,
Steven.
I wasn't trying.
Yep.
Yeah, you can stop there. Sorry.
How
sorry, left.
ridiculous.
So you see there, like this guy, when I was, I'll talk about this later, but this is a guy that came up to me at later, and he was like, literally threatening me. He was threatening that he might actually beat me up or something like that. He was like very angry and all that. Like the main reason why I think he didn't try anything, like didn't actually like swat the phone out of my hand, why he didn't smack me or anything like that, is because I was standing next to 2 police officers, as you saw. And he had to walk past the police officers to get to me, which is why I think he was a little more polite than normally they would be. So you saw how he like came up to me, and I basically said like, I'm like, hi, how you doing? My name is Des. Like, I'm not talking to you. And I'm like, you literally came up to me to talk to me. And immediately he said, nobody talked to this. You saw what he did? Nobody talked to him. This guy's a neo-Nazi, right? Like immediately.
Mhm.
He just declared to everyone,
Just
no one.
Instant, like,
Man.
this is the way it is.
This is the way it is. No one has permission to talk to this man. The reason why we call these people, like the people in these groups, a cult is because they operate like a cult. It's not just like a word that we just throw out for no reason. It's descriptive. What they do is they are not allowed to talk to anybody outside the group, and they all enforce it. You and I, Steven, had several times throughout this rally where people were trying to basically like, keep us from talking to people. So if you go to like the 23:35 mark, we had a guy named the Rainbow Scholar. Do you remember him?
Mm-hmm.
I dubbed the Rainbow Scholar. So we encountered this all the way throughout the day. 23:35. We encountered this all the way through the day. People would start talking to us, and then all of a sudden somebody come, they whisper in their ear, and then suddenly they stop talking to us. You remember this guy, right?
Of course I do.
So this guy, you can watch the thing online. It's a long little conversation we had. It was good, but he was probably the only conversation that we had that was not interrupted. But what did you think of that conversation, Stephen, with that guy?
Oh, that guy was like, I joined kind of like closer to the end of that conversation, and yeah, like I wanted to be more involved with a lot of the conversations. So a lot of like, you'll see me sort of in the background a lot of these videos. So there's 2 reasons why I wasn't directly involved with a lot of these things. A, because my wife and kids were at that protest, and in case there was some sort of like craziness,
yeah,
I didn't want, like, they were like my first priority, and I'm like, okay, like I have to be able to be like, all right, we need to go.
Yeah.
And then the second reason was that it was just so unbelievably loud.
Yeah.
That I could only hear probably about 50% of what was being said.
Yeah. It was
and so I was missing out on a lot of points, and I'm like, I got part of that, but I'm not sure exactly what point he's making right now. So, and then when you had that meeting with the journalist, I was like, oh, well, he's more specifically interviewing you solely.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
yeah. I was like, all right.
Well, the one that was interesting was this. So that was probably the only uninterrupted conversation I had the whole day. The next guy, I called him the Rhinestone Cowboy. If you go to the 32 minute mark.
Oh, that guy.
Remember that guy?
Of course.
He was actually kind of like, he was actually all right. Like I was like, oh, this guy's all right.
35 minute mark.
Yeah, 32 minute mark.
Oh, 32. Okay.
Oh yeah, no, maybe start there actually.
Sure.
Because he basically was like talking to me. I kept trying to get him to share his experience because I'm like trying to show him that, like, you know what, I'm like, I understand and I'm making the effort.
Mm-hmm.
And then right after he finished, he basically
got pulled aside and then
pulled aside. Somebody told him, like, hey,
stop
you're
talking.
Supposed to, yeah. I don't know if you can find it, but you can start playing. Like you can see he's legitimately talking to me.
Yeah.
But he kept getting, like, he, even when I asked him, like, I just want to make sure. So this is what I think you said, and then he would always change it, and I'm just like, dude, stop trying to be evasive. Like, I'm trying hard here to make an effort to to capture your point of view properly. Like stop trying to dodge and try to change your statement every single time. Like I think this is part of their the way that they operate. But yeah, you can start playing what he his little little thing.
The adult world, they don't know anything. Right. So yeah, so
and as you can tell, it's just super loud right now.
What I'm trying to do is I'm listening to you.
Oh, there you go.
Right. Yep.
They just walked away. Just walked away.
And that's when the journalist approached you.
Yeah, so that's the guy who interviewed me from SATE.
Yeah.
But you see that I spent a good probably maybe up to 5 minutes listening to this guy tell me about his beef and his concerns and all that. And immediately as I'm about to to start giving him my take or whatever, they pull him aside, talking his ear, and then he just walks away. And it's like, great. And that's the problem. They're cultists. That means that they basically operate like a cult, and they don't allow their own people to talk to anybody from the outside of the cult. And so it's very effective. That's one of the ways they keep them trapped in the cult. They basically keep them stuck there so that they can't they can't hear any opposing information or anything like that. And also so they don't say anything that's going to get them that's going to make the group itself unhappy, or going to put them in bad light.
Yeah.
So it's something that we ran into all the way through. Every time I start a conversation, they just get they basically would corral each other like sheep. And it's sad, but that's how they operate. So yeah. And also you said that Pastor Arthur got tackled at this thing, right?
Well, not so much tackled. So essentially what happened was that so Pastor Art showed up, and he was on the city hall side. And so he's showing up, and he's trying to get through, and trying to go around and trying here. I can actually show you the video from Rebel on
Twitter.
Twitter.
Actually show it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
So it's on Adam So's Facebook page.
It's funny too because I was like, I could have been walking with Pastor Arthur. I just he was on the phone, so I just kind of ended up going ahead. So I was like, yep, that doesn't shock me that
here it is.
They just surrounded him, eh?
All right, I gotta make sure it's visible in the live stream.
Yep.
So yeah, this is him showing up. Pot banging guy. And they just instantly surrounded him.
That's the tolerance.
There's you. Yeah.
Dang, man. Dang.
This is dang.
By the way, I saw that girl. That girl that was giving me the middle finger while dancing and all that.
Yep.
She was. Why am I not surprised? She was right in the middle.
Right in the middle of things? Yeah.
Right
No,
in the middle
not surprising at all.
Not surprising at all.
But that wasn't the only crazy thing that happened at this protest or leading up to it. So this is actually one of the craziest things in that. So this is a story from the Western Standard. 2 Calgary men charged for conversation on transit en route to 1 million March for Children. So 2 men are charged under the Calgary Transit bylaw for allegedly making an unknown passenger uncomfortable with their conversation.
That's a crime now?
Yes.
Wow. Well, thank you, Calgary Transit, for making making me never want to take transit ever.
Yep. So they allegedly interfered with the comfort of an unknown transit user while on their way to the Million March for Children. They're scheduled to appear in court late November, represented by the Democracy Fund. TDF defends the rights of all transit users against the anti-free speech transit bylaw. They have yet to, and of course the City of Calgary has yet to disclose the details of the impugned communications. According to the city bylaw, passengers may not interfere with the comfort, convenience, or quiet use and enjoyment of the transit system. The two individuals report having a private conversation on the C train with a like-minded passenger while traveling to the march in a nearly empty train car. However, it appears the conversation was overheard and reported. The men were detained when they got off the train, so they didn't even make it. Dang. One was handcuffed while police confirmed his identity, and they were both issued a ticket and a summons to court.
Holy crap.
TDF wrote the City of Calgary for disclosure about the alleged offenses, but has yet not received a reply.
That's insane.
Absolutely crazy.
That's bonkers. Like it's like the idea is that like like we're becoming a police state. We're not there yet, but we're basically becoming a police state. Imagine like having a conversation in public and you're basically being arrested for just saying anything. By the way, I've seen videos and heard people say insanely horrible things in public in a lot of these pro-Palestine events and marches. Like, nope, not one of them gets even like the slightest slap on the wrist. It's such a gross miscarriage of justice. Like, holy crap. Like I would actually tell people, I'm like, you know what, like if this is the case, I would actually tell everyone I know, be like, you know what, get the heck off Calgary Transit. Because if they're going to basically arrest you for saying for wrong speak on a Calgary Transit bus and all that, just boycott.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't, boycott the crap out of the Calgary Transit.
Oh yeah,
I'm
totally.
gonna use that from now on. Be like, hey, why don't you take the C train? I'm like, because apparently you could be arrested for saying the wrong thing on the C train.
For making other people uncomfortable. It's like, okay, well, what is the standard for making people uncomfortable? Oh, like they were displeased with the topic of conversation. Like, it's one thing if you're screaming and raving, it's like, oh, like the end is nigh, like the meteor is coming to wipe us out. And like just screaming and ranting and raving, and like people are telling you to leave and you don't. And like the transit cops have to escort you off. That's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're having a conversation and someone else is like, I did not like the topic that they were discussing, and it's like, so mind your own business or walk somewhere else. I felt uncomfortable, so I want them charged and removed.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's that's the solution to everything, Steven. That's the way we solve everything. It's the end of all things. It's pretty bonkers. Like, when I was there at that march, at that protest, and I saw the counter I can't tell you the amount of rude and horrible and inconsiderate things that the people there were like saying or shouting at me. I can't tell you the amount of things that people were saying. Like that guy. Remember that guy that we highlighted?
Yep.
And we said, like, what did you have? Like, a problem getting a date in high school? I'm like, the heck, man?
Yeah.
Like, he literally insulted me in public and all that. I felt pretty uncomfortable, Steven. I felt super uncomfortable. That guy should get arrested. By Calgary.
Yeah, my comfort matters.
And you know what's even better? Unlike the transit passenger that made that complaint or whatever, I actually have video evidence of the actual like mean-spirited things that made me feel uncomfortable in the streets of Calgary.
How on earth do you have such quick response where you actually detain and handcuff the person upon exiting the C train? Like,
the other part is like they also have to
know
where they were going to get off, don't they?
Yes. Like, I guess they just like took an officer from like that was already at City Hall and be like, all right, well, you can just head over there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's absolutely nuts.
Mm-hmm.
I would like. My question is like, if these two people, like, I would have liked them to actually like get up and speak.
Yeah.
Like, that would have been crazy. I was telling my parents about this, like, when I was picking up my kids. And I'm like, yeah, this happened in Calgary. And Dad's like, what the heck is wrong with our city? And I'm like, well, a lot. But this is, like, the tip of the iceberg.
Jeez. My goodness.
Yep.
Well, and that's the
Absolutely
thing. It's like,
mind-bogglingly stupid.
well, I know that in England, the UK, they have a law now that that basically says that it is now illegal to misgender somebody.
Misgender, yeah.
Yeah, and so like they basically put into law that there's only the correct viewpoint, and every other viewpoint is illegal. It's basically blasphemy laws. That's what
Yeah,
they are.
it is.
It is, and so it's just yeah, and so we have to be like it's just it's crazy that we got into this place now in this country that you're literally like they now have free speech zones. By the way, a free speech zone is no longer Calgary Transit.
Mm-hmm.
That arrest kind of proved that.
Oh
My
yeah,
goodness.
no. Calgary Transit is now you have to basically. It's just like they want you to stay silent. They want you to just listen to your music. You cannot communicate with anybody because you might disturb their comfort.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
I like
It's
should I just
such
like
a
start
perspective.
calling the cops on like the high schoolers who make a giant ruckus?
Mhm.
Because like I feel uncomfortable on the C train. Or not on the C train, on the bus when I ride home. I feel uncomfortable, so therefore they are committing a crime against me. But
Yeah.
alas,
such
the
a
state of modern society.
No, like, if you want, like like David Menzies could very easily claim that. Like
Oh, yeah.
these people very understand, very. These people made me super uncomfortable for whatever reason, and but no, they will only enforce it one way, which is like just nuts. And so like it's my gosh, it's craziness.
Mhm.
Anyways, go on.
But
The
speaking
next
of
one.
craziness, let's talk about this. Trans identifying 11-year-old becomes the youngest Grand Marshal at the Orlando Pride Parade. An 11-year-old boy who identifies as a girl was selected as the Grand Marshal of Orlando's Come Out with Pride Festival. Dempsey Jara, the youngest person ever chosen for the role, rode in an open-top car leading the parade on Saturday. The child donned a gown, heart-shaped sunglasses, and waved to the crowd while holding a puppy. Dempsey's parents were smiling while riding in the back seat. She just always gravitated towards girl things. Girl toys, the child's mom, Jamie Jara, told the Orlando Sentinel. She'd say, "I'm a girl in my heart and in my brain. She's been on this journey since she was 5, and she's living her best life." Dempsey told reporters at the event
talk to
that
this
being
poor kid
trans
in,
is
like,
not
20
about a
years.
choice. Yeah. No, this is... Like, you don't have to read the entire article. This kid is 11. This kid started transitioning this child at 5. And it's actually very funny because this Conquerworm, call them if you see a pride flag on transit. Yeah, maybe. I feel uncomfortable because of all the violence that's been linked to the Rainbow Mafia.
Yeah, that would be a good way to put it.
Yeah. But like I would feel like if a boy in a dress showed up on transit, I'd be like, you know what? This is actually affecting my comfort level. Because it's very discomforting to see a child who's so openly abused and their parents are so proud about it.
Yeah. It's like one of the best examples I can think of is when Leah Thompson, okay, that trans swimmer for I forget the Penn State, I think it was. When he was in that competition, the officials basically forced all of the girls on all of the swim teams. They're like, "Yep, he's gonna go in there. He's gonna get fully naked. There's a fully naked male with full male genitalia, everything like that, and all that kind of stuff." Like so many girls said, like this is insanely uncomfortable. Like they were like distressed and horrified and very uncomfortable. And then they basically they basically blamed the victims. They're like, well, if you're uncomfortable, it's because there's a problem with you. You're the problem. And so we basically hired some counselors here who are going to brainwash you into believing that yes, I'm the issue. Yes, Leah Thompson's a female. I'm a good little servant. Like that's basically the way they operate it. So that it's incredible that we're moving into the kind of society where basically wrong think and wrong speak are becoming illegal. And of course, it's never achieved or attained through reasonable discourse, through people like hey, like we disagree, let's talk about this. No. It's enforced by the force of a gun. That's how it's done. It's basically like top down. No, you don't have a say in it. You just shut up and sit down and go your merry way. Let the people like literally steamroll over you, and you just you smile and take it. That's basically Soviet Union style tactics. It's amazing. People think that we're just being ridiculous or exaggerating when we say that, but I'm like, are you kidding me? This is exactly what they did in those countries. That's why Pastor Arthur and his brother were always very angry about COVID and about everything that's been going on, because they understood that this is exactly what happened in the Soviet bloc. This is how they dealt with people. It's unbelievable. And by the way, all these rainbow people that are so like, they're almost like giddy because like all the unmitigated power that they're given to basically be completely
basically
like,
act how they want with no consequences whatsoever.
To be unhinged kind of people. They're going to be the first ones who are going to be like, like thrown under the bus the second they don't need them anymore. And the funny thing is, they don't know that. We know that. We know that as soon as they finish the people like us, they're going to go right after them, because they're like, well, you're no longer useful and you're kind of like an annoyance. So we're just going to get rid of you. And they're going to be easy to get rid of because none of those people are actually courageous. Not one of them. They're not courageous. They don't have courage. They're just angry people who want to get away with things, and they're basically given a free pass. So good luck when the purge happens. It's a sad day, but that's what we know. We know what's going to happen.
We do.
All right, take it into Joe Biden.
Yes, take it into Joe Biden. Someone who will do apparently just fine if the purge comes, because that's what happens when you get a $200,000 direct payment from your brother. But yes, there are no direct payment between foreign officials and Joe Biden. Only, a check from his brother, who is openly receiving money from foreign officials. So,
Stephen,
yes,
there's no evidence. There's just no evidence that Joe
sorry,
Biden
everybody, I have deceived you.
Throw it on the pile of no evidence.
No evidence
pile, the mountain pile that keeps accumulating of no evidence.
It's utterly meaningless.
That's right. Yeah.
But
yes,
nothing. From Fox News, Comer raises questions about $200K direct payment from James Biden to Joe Biden in 2018. So the House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer and his panel uncovered evidence that Joe Biden in 2018 received a $200,000 direct payment. That'd be nice. Like, this is my address. Send it my way. From his brother James Biden and sister-in-law Sarah Biden, is demanding the president answer questions about financial arrangements with members of his family. Comer has been leading an investigation into the Biden family business dealings since January, and whether President Biden was involved in those ventures or personally benefited from them.
He did.
Yes. 100%. So from the Oversight Committee. So we found a $200,000 direct payment to Joe Biden from American. So how long is this video?
This summer, Joe Biden said, "Where's the money?" Well, we found some. We're still digging into evidence subpoenaed from bank accounts belonging to Hunter Biden, the son of President Joe Biden, and James and Sarah Biden, the brother and sister-in-law of the president. A document that we're releasing today raises new questions about how President Biden personally benefited from his family's shady influence peddling of his last name and their access to him. Bank records obtained by the House Committee on Oversight have revealed a $200,000 direct payment from James and Sarah Biden to Joe Biden in the form of a personal check. Here's some important context about this check we've obtained in our investigation. In 2018, James Biden received $600,000 in loans from AmeriCorps, a financially distressed and failing rural hospital operator. According to bankruptcy court documents, James Biden received these loans, quote, based upon representations that his last name, Biden, could open doors and that he could obtain a large investment from the Middle East based on his political connections, end quote. On March 1st, 2018, AmeriCorps wired a $200,000 loan into James and Sarah Biden's personal bank account, not their business bank account. And then on the very same day, James Biden wrote a $200,000 check from this same personal bank account to Joe Biden. James Biden wrote this check to Joe Biden as a, quote, loan repayment. AmeriCorps, a distressed company, loaned money to James Biden, who then sent it to Joe Biden. Even if this was a personal loan repayment, it's still troubling that Joe Biden's ability to be paid back by his brother depended on the success of his family's shady financial dealings.
Yep. Oh yeah, this is a big steaming pile of no evidence. Just nothing to see here. Nothing to see here.
Nothing to see.
Totally not a big deal.
I don't know if you remember, like, and by the way, this wasn't even my idea, but I got this from them one. We said this earlier.
Yeah.
That, like, what is the one benefit of doing a subpoena? What's the one benefit? Like, why do a subpoena? What's the point? It's like, well, the bank records.
Yeah,
because the one thing that they can't get without subpoena power is bank records. And now that they've got the bank records, we have officially.
Like, oh, look at that! A personal check to Joe Biden.
It's funny how that works, eh? Funny how that works.
Funny how it's just it's there.
Coincidences are just so making me sick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, but like, unfortunately, I don't think that, like, with the Republicans currently in turmoil, there's not much that's going to be done about this, at least for quite some time. And of course, because the Democrats control the Senate, there won't be anything done regarding it. And so it's more evidence to pile on, but whether it actually has a long-term effect is unknown.
It's like a heaping, like, dumpster fire of, evidence.
Oh, it is.
I remember there was somebody who I don't remember, like, off the top of my head, but there was somebody who was going through all the like mountains of evidence that were laid down about, like, Joe Biden. And I was like, just listening to it, like, it was like a good long, like 10, 12-minute segment or something like that. And I was just like, dear Lord, it's like you would have to be, like, intentionally, like, obtuse in order to miss how obvious it was that these things were that these things were actually happening. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so freaking obvious, right? So, like, but the problem right now is that we've basically, like, moved on, like, because right now that the Israel story is a big deal, and we're talking about other things right now. So I was like, it sucks because the attention should still be on this, like, this corrupt, like, crime family, but, like, no, sadly now we've moved on to something entirely different. And I'm like, oh, come on, we all know he's corrupt. Come on, we got to keep it. We got to keep him on his toes. But no, it's gone. It's all over, Stephen. It's all over.
Mm-hmm. It's all over.
Sad. That's right.
All right. It's known as
Anything
yes, Cogworm. You're more than likely correct. It's known, and the answer is nothing will happen. Because unfortunately, there's not a serious amount of courage and balls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was actually talking a little bit about kind of like courage and having balls, because my dad was like, "Oh yeah, like I heard about some like crazy like transgender campaign that Hershey put on." And I'm like, "Did you hear about the Daily Wire's response to it?" And he's like,
"Oh, you didn't know about that? You didn't know?"
And I'm like, "Yeah, they created like Jeremy's chocolate." And he's like, "Oh, and how did that go?" And I'm like, "They have two variants, one with nuts and one without. And you shouldn't need a biology degree to figure out which one." And he's like, and my grandfather's like, "Oh, that's so crude." And I'm like, "It is, but it works."
It works.
You have to go to mommy. I need mom. Well, you need mommy. I can do it. Would you like to say hi?
Gonna say hi to the people? Hello.
You don't want to say hi?
She's camera shy. She's a shrinking
You
violet.
want to cuddle. Well, now is not the time for cuddling.
Yeah, like this is showtime, girl.
Earlier. It's showtime. Okay. You want me to show people your head?
The top of your head.
Okay. No, you have to go to mommy to get water.
Is that the littlest one?
Yeah, it's Abby.
Yep.
She's like, "Hi, Mom." This is the problem of like when we moved the desk upstairs. It's just like Abby's just like, "Hello." I'm like, I can't stop you.
Those are so much louder upstairs.
I
You
know.
can
I
totally
know.
hear them.
Oh, you definitely can.
It just happens.
If there's
It
some
comes.
sort of tantrum, it's just like. Ah!
Yep. You hear
Anyways, speaking of things that you could hear. Oh boy, let's talk about Democrat slams White House. Democrat, actually. A Democrat slams the White House press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, for a weak answer on anti-Semitism. Must do better.
Wow. I mean, if she's got a weekend, if the Democrats are criticizing her, you know she really is sucking.
She really must sucked.
She's the queen of suck.
So, Jean-Pierre argued that the White House didn't see any credible threats against the Jewish community. Sure.
Yeah. Keep telling yourself that.
Yeah.
Keep telling yourself
and
that.
then declaring that Muslims and Arabs Americans have endured a disproportionate number of hate-fueled attacks.
Seriously?
Yep.
Dear Lord.
Potential rise of anti-Semitism in light of everything that's going on in Israel.
So a couple of things. We have not seen any credible threats. I know there's been always questions about credible threats, and so just want to make sure that that's out there. But look, Muslim and those perceived to be Muslim have endured a disproportionate number of hate-fueled attacks. And certainly President Biden understands that.
Yep.
Did you hear the insanity that she...
Yes,
like,
I know.
It's like, oh, by the way, there's no credible attacks on the
on
Jewish
Jews,
community, but the Islamic
Muslims
community
are the real victims.
has had such a massive, disproportionate amount. I'm like, what? You're just gonna say that and it's just magically true? Like, you can't. You don't have any credible, like threats about like Jewish attacks, but you have like credible ones about the Islamic ones.
The Islamic ones.
Like I'm just like.
Which is, of course, completely nonsense because in the past, 3 weeks, there's actually been attacks against Jews.
Yes.
Like there's been delis that have been desecrated. There's been places which have been like war memorials that have been desecrated. There's been attacks on various buildings, but we haven't found any credible threats. No, that's just because they've been attacked.
By the way, this is the kind of stuff that just pisses me off. It's like you know that scene from Aaron Brockovich when she's like, oh, okay, that just pisses me off, that it's the kind of stuff because this lunatic is standing there pissing all over you and like telling you like, oh, it's just rain. This is just rain. Like you're imagining things.
Yeah,
she's like,
it's not real.
Don't believe your lying eyes. Like this is the kind of like just absolute arrogant disregard and condescension that these people have. Like these people hate you. They hate you so much that they don't even care that their lies are obvious. My goodness, eh? Like it's like worst secretary ever. Like she's not even good at lying. That's the problem.
Well, and then it had to be clarified on Twitter. To be clear, the president and our team are very concerned about the rise in anti-Semitism, especially after the horrific Hamas terrorist attack in Israel. It's like, then why didn't you say that in the first place?
Yeah, by the way, anytime they say we've been very clear, I'm like, no, you've been
you haven't. You've been
pathological liars.
The opposite of that.
Yeah, absolutely. These people are the worst.
Oh yes.
Seriously, imagine meeting somebody like that in real life.
Oh my gosh.
And they lie to you, but did you just crash into my car? Yeah, no, your car was always like that. Like, no, I literally saw you back up and completely crash into the bumper. It's like, no, you're just like that was a deer.
I am a good driver. Your car just shouldn't be here.
Driver. Yeah, your car was in the wrong place and it wasn't even hit by me. It was hit by a deer. You're just nuts. You're freaking liars.
No. From my point of view, the curb is the road.
Yeah, pretty much. We need to lower the volume and stop with these hateful attacks against me.
Oh yeah.
And this is just racist that you're raising your voice against a minority woman. It's like, oh my god.
Oh boy. Yeah.
The heck out of my property.
That kind of game.
Before I get my shotgun.
I feel uncomfortable. You're the one invading into my property. Yes, but you're making me feel very unwelcome. Yes, because you're literally breaking in.
I'm uncomfortable with people eavesdropping over my conversations.
Yes.
Nah, that would be what I would have gone with.
Yep. All right. Well, speaking of things that make us a little uncomfortable, let's talk about Iran.
Iran.
Iran! I ran away.
I'm not sure which one it is. Iran.
I think
Iran.
I've always used Iran.
I
think it's like more of I think it's actually a bit of a Canadian American because whenever I talk to Canadians, they always say Iran, and then whenever I talk to Americans, they're like, "Oh yeah, it's Iran.
Iran.
We want to nuke Iran."
Iran going down. All right. So what happened to Iran? Sir?
So from Reuters, White House says Iran actively facilitating some attacks on United States military bases. So the White House on Monday said Iran was in some cases actively facilitating rocket and drone attacks by Iranian-backed proxy groups on United States military bases in Iraq and Syria, and President Biden has directed the DoD to brace for more and respond appropriately. Spokesman John Kirby. There's been an uptake in such attacks over the last week and especially over the last few days, and the United States would not allow threats or its interests in the region to go unchallenged. So the U.S. believed these groups were supported by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard, the Iranian government, which was also continuing to support Hamas and Hezbollah militant groups. We know that Iran is closely monitoring these events and in some cases actively facilitating these attacks and spurring on others who may want to exploit the conflicts for their own good or for that of Iran. So, and then of course this is only backed up by this story from the Daily Caller. Iran-backed militants strike U.S. and coalition bases. Blinken threatens decisive response.
Yeah.
So he pledged to respond rapidly to strikes from Iran-backed militias and defensive United States troops as reports emerged of yet another strike on an Iraqi base where American troops were stationed Tuesday. Since Thursday, militias receiving funding and encouragement from Iran have launched rockets and one-way attack drones at bases housing U.S. troops in Iraq and Syria. Speaking to UN Security Council, he echoed the Pentagon's earlier warnings that Iranian proxy militias would seek to escalate attacks in the near future, targeting American military personnel trying to draw the United States into a war mushrooming across the region. Like, I know that some people want to draw the United States into a war, but if Iran has any sense, that is the last thing that Iran wants.
I think there are some really interesting efforts right now in a lot of like war hawks in the States that really want to ramp up a war effort against Iran. And I think like the problem is like I think Tim Pool was talking about it on Timcast IRL. They were saying like, it seems like almost like they're priming people.
Yeah.
Like when they have like a goal, they're like, well, we can't just like drop it on people's laps like all at once. We have to like slowly warm them up to it, like slowly kind of like, get them used to the idea that like, oh, this could happen. Oh, look at those big bad Iranians. And like, that sounds plausible to me that they're trying to get this started. Like the idea that like, these big bad Americans or the big bad Iranians are up to no good. Now, here's an interesting thing is that they're basically threatening to go to war with Iran. And yet Iran has not directly like attacked anybody. They're just saying like, it's all Iran's fault. And I'm like, it sounds a little bit like the, like when Al-Qaeda, like, struck America in 9/11 and they're like, we're going to Iraq. It's like, wait, why are we going to Iraq? Like Al-Qaeda's in like Afghanistan. No, we're going to go to Iraq because Saddam Hussein has weapons of mass destruction. I'm like, wait, what does Saddam Hussein have to do with anything? It's like, like, don't worry about it. We're just gonna do it. We're just gonna do it. Yeah, it's gonna happen. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be really good. It's like no, it wasn't. That's what it sounds like. What it's going on. They want a war. There's a lot of money in it. There's a lot of like reasons to go to war. None of which actually benefit the American people. It's basically like like the whole military industrial complex kind of like thing. So it's I don't know. It's a lot of people are saying that like what was it World War III was trending on Twitter. So it sounds like we're kind of like like sleepwalking, like a lot of people say, sleepwalking into World War III. So I don't know, all hands on deck. But there is some news from the Israeli and Gaza conflict, and that's in the next story. Steven?
Yes, I shall go.
Oh yes.
So, from the Daily Mail. So, all hostages in Gaza
will be put it on the screen.
Oh, sorry. No, I did. I did.
Okay.
will be released in exchange for greater aid and free passage for Hamas leaders and their families. An extraordinary plan report claims. All the remaining hostages will be released in exchange for greater aid. Moti Kahana, an American-Israeli entrepreneur, is working on an extraordinary plan to secure all hostages in the Gaza Strip, as well as the bodies of fallen Israeli soldiers that have been hid by the terrorist group since 2014. Two-stage plan allegedly involves sending medical supplies, baby, and hygiene provisions to Gaza for civilian use. It would also allow Hamas leaders in Gaza, and not those involved in the slaughter of Israelis, to leave the Strip. Which Hamas leaders are not involved in the slaughter of Israelis? Because that's literally their stated intent since the beginning of their existence.
Stephen, I mean, clearly, Hamas is not Palestinians. They're like, they're clearly marked. They all have a very clear mark.
Yes, of
that
course.
makes them really obvious, so you can be like, oh, that's Hamas. Oh, that's just an innocent Palestinian. They're like, it's obvious. Like, once you get there, it's like, oh yeah, I mean, super obvious.
Yeah.
There's no nuance whatsoever.
Yeah. So this is so the exchange or the plan, which Kahana is reportedly devising in partnership with the White House, is well-known seasoned American negotiator. France, a Syrian advisor to Kahana's company, will require Hamas to release all foreign and dual nationality hostages. The Israeli government has denied knowledge of the plan. Oh yeah, that sounds like it's going to work if the Israeli government doesn't know about it. Telling the paper it sounds like Hamas propaganda stemming from the pressure they are under. Yes. Like, Hamas does not want Israel to invade Gaza because they know that if Israel invaded Gaza, Israel would wipe them out. Or at least it would wipe out the remaining forces. But Israel doesn't really have a choice in the matter. Israel, they have to take out the terrorist leaders. They have to take out the underground tunnels.
And all of the infrastructure.
Yeah.
Supplies and munitions that they've built.
Yeah.
That they stored in Gaza.
Like, I'm all for, like, we want to evacuate as many civilians as possible. We want to reduce civilian casualties. Yeah. But let's be honest. Our number one goal should be wiping Hamas out. And if that means turning Gaza into a parking lot, then do it.
Well, the thing that annoyed me, did you actually, I didn't actually find out if you did. Did you watch the Tim Castellaro from yesterday?
No, I didn't.
The one about the young, it's been a while since I've been that freaking annoyed at somebody like just sharing their opinion and thinking like, oh, my opinion's like super legit. I'm like, you're an idiot. Like, I was so pissed off at this kid talking like out of his butt. Like, like they had no idea what he was talking about. The kid was basically saying like, well, like people are dying on both sides, so we should have peace. I'm like, well, what is peace going to accomplish? Well, peace is good because less killing. And I'm like, what the heck are you talking about? Like, that is not a viable option or solution to everything. To just be like, peace at all costs. I'm like, no. If you declare peace, they're just going to do it again.
Yeah.
And they're going to keep doing it again because you don't understand the situation over there.
Well, because if you're calling for peace, if you're calling for a ceasefire, especially given the current situation, if you're calling for a ceasefire and say it's like it doesn't really matter that they have a bunch of hostages, it doesn't really matter that Hamas leadership is totally fine, but we just want to call for a ceasefire.
Oh, and that they won't let civilians leave.
Yeah, they won't let civilians leave. It's like, oh, well, we care about civilians. It's like, well, the only reason that you care about civilians and that civilians are dying is because Hamas is taking this action to trap them there and willfully killing them. And so what you should be encouraging, it's like, okay, like we don't want a war in the region, but we also want to evacuate as many civilians as possible.
Well, and a lot of people are falling for this. It actually makes me feel really sorry for a lot of people that they all fall for the complete lie that Hamas and the media will constantly tell them. It's like, oh, it's like war crimes, human rights atrocities.
No.
I'm like, no, this is called war, you dummy. Like, it's basically you're like, Hamas launched a war by invading like Israel. Okay, so if they're in a war, it's because they asked for it. Secondly, this is war because in order to get the ground invasion that they need, in order to be able to take out all of the Hamas troops leadership and all of their equipment and all that kind of stuff, they have to soften the target. You know what a massive suicide task it is to just walk into an urban environment without having softened like all of their potentially like stronghold bases and all that. It's basically almost suicide. Urban warfare is brutal. And so in order to be able to effectively invade and actually go in and remove the like all of the assets that they have, you have to strike from above. Like, that's just how it works. And this dumb little kid didn't get that. And I'm just like, sit like normally I don't tell people to sit down and shut your mouth and all that, but I'm like, at this point, like, you don't know anything.
Yep, you're utterly clueless.
You're talking like you know something. I'm like, no. And I think Tim Pool, thank goodness, he actually gave him a very good point. He's like, you're basically saying that, Netanyahu is guilty of war crimes. Like, okay, so what should we do? We should be tried by tribunal. So you're basically saying that they should go in, with a military force, arrest Netanyahu and charge him in the middle of a war? And he's like, well, I didn't say that. Like, you're basically
that's what you're saying. That is what you're advocating for.
Your words have consequences. Your ideas have consequences. This is why, if you're not well informed, you should really not be,
you should. Well, yeah. If you're not well informed, you shouldn't be regularly contributing to a public platform, unless you're informed on a subject. Like sometimes we have topics that come up in the show that we're not exceptionally informed on. It's like, well, like, I haven't done a whole ton of research on that, so this is my opinion kind of as a layman, but I haven't spent a lot of time to delve deep into this. Like, of course, you and I have spent quite a bit of time in the past few weeks delving fairly deep on Israel. Yep. And so we can tell you the history of the past few years, the history of the past few decades about why Israel has the moral standing here, and that Hamas has consistently been the villains, and that having a ceasefire is exactly what Hamas wants, because it allows them time to kind of restructure and do it again.
Yeah.
Because it's what they've done for decades. And like Ben Shapiro was actually probably fairly right in that Hamas did not expect for their raid to go as well as it did.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're like, oh, well, crap. Like, it went really well. Like, that's good that we killed a whole bunch of Jews. But now we have to deal with the fallout of Israel wanting us wiped out. And there's nothing we can do about that, because their forces are a lot stronger than we are. And they've tolerated us because we're kind of a gnat on their side. But now we've actually gone too far.
Yeah. And the worst part, too, is like people like the one thing that annoys the crap out of me. Because it's just, you can't really do it, or just too many people are doing it in such an intellectually dishonest way, is the moral equivalency. And this is even coming from like well-meaning Christians that I like listen to. And I'm just like, no, like, stop making these moral equivalencies that Israel is just as bad as Hamas, that Israel lies just as much as Hamas, that like all of these things. They're like, no, you cannot just make this blanket statement that it's all the same. I'm like, no, it's not. Yes, Israel, has gotten it wrong. Yes, Israel probably does some like war propaganda, but more often than not, they try to get it right. Whereas, like, Hamas has no compunctions whatsoever about lying about every little thing that they're going to, everything that benefits them. So, like, don't give me that like nonsense that like, oh, they're both basically the same. They're both basically just as evil. None of that kind of stuff. All right, like, speaking of Hamas and like pro-Hamas people, let's go into what happened in the United States.
Yep. So, of course, we've seen a lot of protests, including here in Calgary. Like, the protest, it was actually sort of interesting. The protest that happened on Sunday in Calgary about Palestine and Israel was a lot bigger than the protest about the children on Saturday. And there were several arrests because apparently it got quite violent here, which is a very common occurrence at pro-Palestine rallies. We know that here in Calgary from experience. But here, must watch. TP USA staffer attacked by pro-Hamas supporters in Illinois while escorting elderly Jewish couple through crowd. So, of course, get a little trigger warning. Yes?
Stephen, before you play the video, I just want to make sure there's no, like, credible, like, evidence of attacks on Jewish people, right? Like, there's nothing anywhere,
no credible
right?
threats.
No credible threats.
It just happens.
No, it spontaneous.
It materializes out of nowhere.
Credible. No credible threats whatsoever.
Yeah, the chants have killed the Jews and all these things. Those aren't threats.
Credible.
They're just free
They're
speech.
just the cries of the oppressed.
Yeah, the cries of the oppressed. Kill everyone who disagrees with me.
Hey!
So yes, violence in Illinois from Palestinians. And yeah, right in the center of that throng is the kind of TP USA guy, and he's escorting some Jews out of the protest. And the Palestinians go crazy.
Dang, man.
It's like, well, yep, this is what happens when you're taught from a young age to hate Jews. That it doesn't matter where you go, you're still going to hate Jews.
Yeah. Did you hear those stories about, like, how I think, like, Daily Caller had, like, a expose that, like, the Biden administration basically admitted that they basically lost 24 I think it was, like, like terrorists, like, people that cross the border, and they're like, yep, we don't know where they are, they're gone. And it's like, well, that's quite the admission, especially considering those are just the ones you know about. But, like, who knows how many? So, like, people are saying, like, yeah, there's already like almost like guaranteed sleeper cells in the United States. Like, like full on Chinese, Russian, Hamas, Hezbollah, whoever it is, sleeper cells that are like that got into the country through the porous southern border, and it's pretty much over for America. Like, good luck stopping a terror attack nowadays.
Okay, hang on.
Got a little kiddo.
A little person who needs to be dealt with.
Little person.
No, you need to go to bed. Mommy.
All right, so no, if I remember the story correctly, so for collision, I don't know. Okay, I don't know if they actually brought them to the rally. Let's see here. Turning Point USA staffers attacked by demonstrators waving Palestinian flags in the town just outside of Chicago. Trying to escort an elderly couple through a counter protest following a pro-Israel rally. So what was happening, according to the article, is that this couple was in a pro-Israel rally, which good for them. Like, like the idea that, like, if you're in a free country, you should be able to have a protest in favor of your, like your country. But what happened was the counter protesters, like, like who have no respect for elderly or the weak or the disabled or anything like that. It's like you're an enemy, so you're basically dehuman. They attacked them. So it wasn't at a pro-Palestine rally. It was actually at a pro-Israel rally, and these people were counter protesters.
Yeah.
So that's what actually happened.
Yeah. So, like, as it describes in the article, which
I just have to reread it because somebody asked a question.
Yeah. So I'll go back to the other article. And so, punched and hit with a flagpole while trying to escort an elderly couple through a counter protest following a pro. So basically, he was trying to escort them out because that was the way that their car was. It's basically what happened, like, from the protest that happened over the weekend.
Yeah.
Like, you had to go north.
Mm-hmm.
And from the place where the protest was, you had to go through the counter-protesters, essentially, to go back towards your car.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the same kind of situation, where you're trying to go through, and you do not want to have these kind of violent interactions. Mm-hmm. But the left sees violence as a common, very appropriate outcome.
Well, there's the reason why leftists in the United States have common ground with Palestinians or like the pro-Hamas terrorists, because in their view, they use the same rhetoric, the same logic. The logic is basically this. The logic is that if we're oppressed, if you're an oppressed group or like a group that's been oppressed by somebody else, a victim group, then anything you do is nice and legal.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically what they think. Like anything you do is justified. Hence, they believe that you can, it's the Inglorious Bastards approach. Like if you ever seen that movie, the whole idea in that movie and the whole rhetoric that was constantly like thrown around in that movie, it's like, oh, if someone's a Nazi, well, you could do whatever you want to them. It doesn't matter
any action is tolerated.
Cruel, how despicable, how evil the action is. Doesn't matter how much suffering you inflict. Nothing. It's basically like they deserve it because they're Nazis. Like there's an iconic scene in that movie where they capture a bunch of officers for the German army, and I don't remind me, Stephen. Like, were they actually like specifically Nazis, or were they just German soldiers? Because it's not the same thing. There were some soldiers, there were like SS battalions, and then there was like, anyways.
I don't remember. It's been ages.
I don't remember. But as they were holding them there, they had the guy named the Bear, and he kept coming out, making noise and like being all scary and all that. And then he was like basically trying to like intimidate them and scare them psychologically before he bashed their heads in with a baseball bat. That's basically the left, the modern day left.
Oh yeah.
They feel this sense of like righteous glory in causing suffering to their enemies. And so, yeah, like the pro-Palestine rally, they come from a worldview that they believe that anything they do to you is nice and legal and totally morally defensible because they're the good guys in their view and you're the bad guys. And so anything good guys do to bad guys, no matter how foul or evil, it's totally okay. Totally okay. I mean, it is reductive. I'm oversimplifying a complicated issue, but I'm basically describing patterns.
Mm-hmm.
And you can understand the pattern. We saw it. We saw it this weekend. The people there, they like two very good examples of people that I videotaped. Both of them immediately accused me. One lady accused me of spreading hate speech, even though I had said nothing. I had literally not opened my mouth, and she's like, "Oh, you're a hate speech lover." The other guy basically accused me of being a neo-Nazi based on nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, if you want to say that, they don't operate like that, I'm like, no, that's how they operate. They hate me not because they know what I've said, not because I've done something wrong. It's like I'm on the opposite side, therefore they hate me. So, that's basically how they operate. So it's descriptive. I'm not just kind of throwing things at them just because I don't like them. It's like, no, I'm describing what they do and how they operate.
Their common tactics.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. But we do have to move on. So, from the Daily Mail. Alaska airline pilot Joseph Emerson pleads not guilty as he appears in court on 83 counts of attempted murder with trying to shut down plane's engine while high on magic mushrooms. So, off-duty pilot Joseph Emerson was charged in court Tuesday as he faces 83 counts of attempted murder. He says he was on magic mushrooms and wanted to wake up when the chaos started, according to federal court documents. In Oregon court on Tuesday afternoon, the 44 appeared in a prison-issued jumpsuit and was arraigned, pleading not guilty. So, he was off-duty and sitting in a jumpsuit in the cockpit of a Horizon airplane. On Sunday, when he allegedly tried to shut off the engine's fuel supply, Emerson was being held to bail and was arraigned this afternoon. During the short hearing, Emerson appeared before the court in a blue prison jumpsuit. He did not address the court directly, but did speak to his attorney from behind a partition. He pleaded not guilty. So this is back when he first joined as a first officer in 2001. According to a federal affidavit, he said, "I'm not okay," before reaching up to grab two red fire handles, which would have cut the plane's engines. And he later told federal officials, "Yeah, I pulled both emergency shut-off handles because I thought I was dreaming and I just want to wake up." Dang. Like,
Isn't that crazy?
like this guy, it's like, oh, I'm not guilty because I thought I was dreaming. It's like, okay, so you might not be guilty of like purposely trying to kill people, but you should be guilty of exceptionally negligent behavior and attempted, like, there has to, I don't know exactly what charge it would be, because, like, you're under the influence. Like, yes, you're not driving, it's an odd legal precedent, because it's, like, I would probably actually, there should be a charge for the pilot who allowed him to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. That should be
because, well, it's like somebody saying, it's like, oh yeah, like, you're totally fine to be in a place which could potentially harm lots of people when you're under the influence of a serious drug.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's basically like driving under the influence, but your actions are so much more have such higher consequences.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very odd legal question, but both him and the pilot should face serious consequences for putting him in that situation.
By the way, the idea here is like, like it's one thing to be doing this. Let's say he was flying a plane that was empty, like, like just like sometimes they what do you call it? They carry your planes from one destination to another because the plane's needed somewhere. That's different. But when you have passengers aboard, totally different. It's like drunk driving. It's like, yeah, if you're caught drunk driving, then like, like if they catch you while you're drunk driving, like you're gonna get some stiff penalties. But if you actually hit somebody and cause like major damage to somebody, you better believe that that's going to be like, considered a consideration in your charge, because like, it was not only irresponsible, but the irresponsibility, like, ended up hurting and harming others. So it's crazy. Like right now, one of the problems I think, Stephen, that's going on, and it's across the board, is that too many companies all over the United States and all over Canada have basically been captured by ideologues, by a lot of like woke, fools that like they emphasize the wrong things. Oh, you have to make sure you go through pronoun training and all this other stuff. We can't offend people, all this kind of stuff. But as a result, merit is becoming a completely lost thing. And all these companies are basically being staffed and taken over by people who do not know what they're doing. And I think that this is like widespread all across the board. That people who used to be like, what these companies used to be like, filled with a lot of like, like intelligent people, capable people with a lot of merit, with years of and who have integrity, who take their job seriously. And I think nowadays it's becoming like, like most companies are just filled with a lot of like ideologues, people who don't have like really any any sense of like responsibility for others. So I'm not shocked that this happened, because this is like academia is a good example. Academia used to be an incredibly like, high profile kind of thing. Going to Harvard used to be a big deal. Going to university used to be a big deal. Now people think like, if you go to university, you're going to come out dumber than when you start. I'm not the first one to say that. Like,
oh no, like this is proven.
Yeah, like they've actually like done studies on this, haven't they, Stephen?
Oh no, like yeah, like they'll do studies on I think it's social tests, like about public knowledge about the country and civics. Yeah, it's civics tests. And university students will have lower outcomes and have poorer results than high school students. No, what he's saying, Danny, is that he was saying that there were neo-Nazis outside of a synagogue with swastika tattoos, and he was saying that, oh, they're the public face of the right. And I'm like, they're not the right.
Not at all.
Neo-Nazis are not the right. Nazism has always been the left. That's why they are National Socialists.
Mhm.
And that's why when you actually look at the policies and procedures of the Nazis and the fascists and the communists and the socialists, they have essentially the same goals. It's just slightly different ways of achieving them.
Yeah. So by the way, like, here's a quick question for collusion. Have you ever read like the actual writings of
Hitler?
Gentile? No, Gentile.
Oh, Giovanni Gentile?
Giovanni Gentile. Has he actually read anything about or by Giovanni Gentile? Collusion. The point is,
I doubt it.
he's the guy who created like fascism.
Mhm.
He's the guy who created the entire system. He basically believed he agreed with Marx in the goals of communism. He believed the state is the vehicle by which we're going to be able to create a utopia. What he disagreed with was that Marx
was the enemy.
Wrong. No, he just believed that Marx had it wrong. Okay, that's not how we're going to get there. Marx believed that you had to nationalize everything and the government owned everything. Like Giovanni basically believed that no, everything has to be like a kind of a the state is like a family.
Yes,
everything has to be under state. If you look at like the bundle of sticks, that's the symbol of fascism. The idea is that like we're stronger together as a collective. And
well, because so Marx and Giovanni Gentile, they separated all, not only in terms of like the nationalist collective of everything, but they also disagreed on who the primary enemy is. So the Marxists, they thought, and they kind of idealized, that the primary enemy of their ideology was the capitalists, the bourgeois, the pigs. It was entirely about a class structure. And so it's, if we overthrow this class structure and input our own, and replace everything with kind of the rule by the common man, the rule by the proletariat, then that will produce this utopian society. Whereas Giovanni Gentile, he believed that the individual was the enemy, and that only as the state, as the predominant basic unit, not the family, not the individual, but the state, and the state would take over all of that. And that was how you achieved this utopic society. So, collusion, you can say that you will not engage in good faith, but if you don't understand history and where these ideologies are based on, then it's hard for you to declare absolutely which side of the political spectrum that they are. And the Nazis and the Nazis, the fascists, and the communists and the socialists, every single one of them align with the goals of the modern ideological left. That is an indisputable fact.
Yeah, I actually had this conversation with our mutual friend Chad Rast on the weekend, and I was explaining this to him too. I'm like, okay, so the most basic way to understand how fascism is a left-wing movement is if you describe left and right as big government versus small government, then fascism is not a small government political movement. Okay, it's what kind of a state do you have? In Canada, we have federalism. In the United States, they have republicanism. Fascism is a type of state. It's a way that a state operates, and the kind of modus operandi by which they do things. Okay, and so if you actually compare the policies of the National Socialists, which is Germany, Italy, and other left wing fascist states, you can see that they're incredibly comparable to the policies and the ideologies of the modern left. They're anti-gun. They don't believe in individualism. They don't believe in free speech. They don't believe in the free market. They don't believe that people have the right to self-defense. All of these things. They believe that children belong to the state. All of these things belong today to the left. These are left-wing policies today. So if you believe truly that fascism is a right-wing movement or ideology, it's because you haven't actually researched it. Go look up Giovanni Gentile. Just look him up. Go on Google, go on DuckDuckGo, whatever you do. Just look him up. You'll see that we're not kidding. He is the guy who created it, and he was a strong student, or like one of his idols, and the one that he based a lot of his work on was Hegel.
Mm-hmm. It
who
was a
is
very common,
a popular communist writer.
Yes.
So you're telling me like, oh, it's right wing, but he's borrowing from Hegel, who borrowed from Marx. I'm like, yeah. Go,
I gave the passing remark, and I thought it was actually a fairly good remark.
Which one?
He's like, so his final statement was, "I will not give you the benefit of my view any longer." And I'm like, you can call your view a benefit, but I might call that a bad faith argument. It's like mic drop.
Yep. Me thinks he's a little too. He thinks a little too highly of him.
Yes.
His input.
All right, let's just move on to the last few things we have to talk about today. So Tucker Carlson signs $1 million ad deal with Public Square.
Yeah, go Tucker.
Yeah, Tucker Carlson has finalized his first major ad deal since departing from Fox, linking up with the online marketplace Public Square for an over $1 million agreement. So the content partnership between the two companies will employ a reach not found anywhere in the mainstream media today. We believe Tucker's ardent protection of American liberties strongly resonates with our target market, as evidenced by his average views totaling over 60 million per video on X. Public Square is thrilled to collaborate with Last Country Inc. as we build an ecosystem of alternatives to the existing commerce and media incumbents, respectively. This partnership is the first of its kind. We believe it will significantly outpace our return on investment than from that of traditional advertising.
Nicely done.
So
Tucker.
yeah, like it's good that Tucker Carlson's getting kind of a platform again.
Yeah.
Like, yes, he's been on Twitter /X for the past few months, but he deserves a decent contract. He has generally fairly good opinions. I find myself disagreeing with Tucker like once in a while, but usually it's fairly rare.
I think it's also because when he was on Fox, he had to temper a lot of his views.
He did
more often, and so I think his views were not as bold as he may have wanted to give them. So I think we're getting more of the full on here's what I really think kind of idea, and I think that's good though, because that means that there are a lot of people in popular media that I'm like, yeah, I listen to them, and I'm like, you know what, I really agree on this part, totally disagree with you on this part, and I can't really say one media personality that I say I agree with everything that they believe or everything that they say. Like, I really like Charlie Kirk, but I don't agree with everything he believes. I really agree with Ben Shapiro, but some things I'm like, yeah, I think he's totally off on that thing. Michael Knowles, or just Tim Pool, or
yeah, you're never. It's very, very hard to have an individual, or especially a political commentator, that you 100% agree with. I think probably the closest for me in terms of a public commentator would probably be Walsh. Just because I find him to be very common sense, and he has sort of the dad opinions.
Dry
which
approach.
I usually, the dry, I'm going to be witty, but I'm also going to be very matter of fact, and I'm not going to beat around the bush.
But I can't imagine that you agree with his take on anime.
No, I disagree with his take on anime, and I disagree with his take on aliens, but I think those are the only two that I really disagree with.
The most prominent ones that he...
Yeah, those are the big ones that I'm like, no, I'm not on board with this.
Yeah. He basically says, there's no such thing as a good anime. Did you hear the anime that people recommended that he had to watch?
I thought that was silly. They got him to watch One Punch Man, and I'm like, I get that One Punch Man, the first season is short.
It's funny,
but
too.
One Punch Man is it's an anime for people who are it's an anime for people that are okay, I don't take animes too
seriously.
You can't take animes too seriously.
It's a more silly version of Dragon Ball Z.
Yes,
the way I would put it.
Yeah, because I would not have suggested. I would not have suggested that. I would have if we're talking about a thinking man's anime. An anime that actually is I have to kind of consider this. I would have gotten him to watch something like Death Note.
Yep.
Death Note is it's a very intense psychological thriller anime.
Yeah, I mean, I watched what was it called? Attack on Titan. And very, very crazy. They put a ton of detail into that stuff. But man, it is gory and sometimes a little like what the heck is going on? Why are they doing this and that? It's interesting though, but their world building is crazy in that show.
Oh yeah,
I will give them that.
No, like anime does. They definitely build crazy worlds when they want to. But anyways, so let's go on to the final story of the day.
Finish it up, bro.
Finish it up. So Jenna Ellis. Plea deal sparks calls for return of $216,000 raised in legal defense funds. Former Trump campaign lawyer Jenna Ellis pled guilty to a felony count of aiding and abetting false statements and writings in connection to the Trump campaign's 2020 election challenge after hundreds of thousands of dollars were raised for her legal defense fund. So, Fannie Willis initially charged Ellis on 2 counts, one of which was under the Racketeer Influencer and Corrupt Organization Act, which was RICO, and the other was solicitation of violation of oath of office. Her legal team at Melito Law established a legal defense fund for Ellis through Give, Send, Go, which had raised $216,000 as of Tuesday morning. He did not immediately respond to a comment request from Breitbart asking if she planned to return the funds, as she is not going to trial and accepted the plea deal. After this writing, there's still an option to donate to the fund, although some of the social media are calling for her to return the money. Days ago, she posted a link to her defense fund on Twitter. On Saturday, Never Trumper and former Representative Adam Kinzinger trolled Ellis in a post on X saying she might want to plea out now, while highlighting her Twitter profile saying she was a servant to Jesus. Are you familiar with the trial and execution of Jesus, Adam? She responded, you might want to actually read the gospel and understand the history here before making frivolous claims about Christ to score Twitter points. And thanks for highlighting my legal defense fund. She cried while addressing the court and invoked her religion at the beginning of the statement. As an attorney who's also a Christian, I take my responsibility as a lawyer very seriously. I endeavor to be a person of sound moral and ethical character in all of my dealings. In the wake of the 2020 presidential election, I believe that challenging the results on behalf of President Trump should be pursued in a just and legal way. She said she was relying on more senior lawyers working on the challenge to provide her with true and reliable information, especially since her role provided speaking to the media and legislatures in various states. She said she did not corroborate the information she received from these attorneys in the frenetic place of attempting to raise challenges to the election. I failed to do my due diligence, noting that she would not have represented Trump if I knew then what I know now. So she would cooperate with prosecutors in future proceedings, serve 5 years probation, fight $5,000 in restitution, and write a letter of apology.
Yep.
So now, which is, I think this is the 4th person to flip in this trial, I believe. So
yeah,
it's kind of. It's looking very dicey for that. Like that, there was already going into that trial. You already knew that due to the district, it was somewhat similar to the case in the trial that's going to be in Washington D.C. with Jack Smith, in that these are very heavy Democrat districts, and I see that as probably the predominant rationale for a lot of these people kind of pleading out, in that. The charges that they are facing are, I think Jenna Ellis was facing 86 years in prison.
Yeah,
and
it's basically a more aggressive version of January 6th, but with more substantive. Like January 6th is going after Trump's supporters.
Yes,
this is going after Trump's
his former league, those who helped him and those who supported him closely,
never working with Trump again.
Yeah,
it's and by the way, this all plays together into the whole idea of the encroaching state that is coming in, both Canada and the United States. Did you hear about that movie that's coming out this week?
Police State by
Dinesh DeSalza and Dan Bongino. I'm gonna see if I can maybe watch that. It's supposed to have it's got a virtual premiere on Friday.
Okay.
Apparently you can buy a ticket to watch it or something like that. So I'll see if I can maybe watch it. But I agree. I've heard the conversations by Dan Bongino, by Dinesh DeSalza, and I think they're right. Their basic point is that no, we're not in a police state right now, but we are definitely barreling towards one. We're definitely like a police state in the making, because a true police state will literally just grab you and they won't give you a reason. They're like, nope, you're coming with us, and then they'll arrest you and put you in the hole, and that's the end of the story. That's what an actual police state is and how it operates. But we're basically working towards that kind of place in a in a completely like done deal police state. Jenna Ellis and all of these lawyers would literally be locked up, every one of them, and they wouldn't even need to give a reason. They'd just be like, "Yep, you're done. Like we've been given the order, and you're being locked up, and there's no court, there's no nothing. It's just you're done." But they're basically going that direction because they've weaponized the Department of Justice. They've weaponized the all of the things that are supposed to protect us from the overreach of the state are failing us. The courts are failing us. All of the attorney generals and the attorneys, they're failing us because they're using the system against their own people, and they're weaponizing it by basically creating out of thin air all sorts of attacks about this is like a totally terrible thing. It's like, well, has this ever been done before or tried before? Oh no, this is the first time we've ever tried this. And you're doing it, you just happen to be using it against your political opponents in a totally first time in U.S. history that the state is prosecuting the political opponents. All of this, if you really step out, you can get caught in the weeds, like caught in the forest. If you step back and take a look and just look at it very simply, it's like, well, yes, it's like the United States never goes after its political opponents. They're creating novel theories about crimes that they supposedly committed, which is exactly what a police state does and a banana republic does, which is like they create made up charges against their political opponents, and it basically is just a kangaroo court. I think that what's going on right now with Jenna Ellis, with Sidney Powell, with Donald Trump and all that, it's a kangaroo court. It's just there to give it the illusion of legitimacy, but really they've already kind of decided what the end result is going to be. They've already handpicked their jury. The judge is already
which county and district it would be in. I'm not saying in any way that these cases are fair. These cases are aligned and put in a situation in order that they are meant to be essentially slam dunks for the prosecution, despite the nonsense nature of these cases. Yes, Conqueror, Nazis are socialists, so how are the right Nazis? Exactly. That's a question that they're always like, no, they didn't mean it when they said that.
Yeah,
I literally had someone say that to me. It was like, no, they were just pretending to be socialists. And I'm like,
it's in the name. National Socialist Workers Party.
Yeah.
That's literally in their name. Like, give me a break. It's like the same argument I have with people when they claim that oh, Hitler was a Christian. I'm like, yes, you've heard that somewhere, but you've never actually looked into it, have you? Because I did an entire full on term paper on it. Hitler was not he was Stalin was an atheist. Hitler was not a Christian. He was a cultist. That's a reason why he was so into the occult. He collected occult things everywhere. There's a reason why the movie Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, why they made that joke. The joke was that oh, Hitler's trying to collect all sorts of crazy artifacts all over the world, which is why he was after the Holy Grail. It's based on history because that's what Hitler did. He was big on collecting
he was big on kind of side things. He was big on trying to have the superstitious.
Yeah, he was. And any
potential benefit.
Any historian worth his salt will never argue that Hitler was a Christian. He pandered to the Christian populace because he needed to get their support, and he would say things that
and he openly attacked them in Mein Kampf.
Yeah. Oh yeah, very much so.
Yeah,
very much.
Very much.
So, yeah,
that's fascist.
We have these conversations all the time, people. And by the way, you have to understand, these a lot of these people, they hear this in high school, then all their
And
friends
then they automatically
they'll talk
believe
about
that
this.
it's true without.
They go to
questioning it in any
university, they're
serious
told
way.
the same thing, like, oh, fascists are like right wing, fascists are right wing. It's repeated to them constantly.
Oh yeah,
But
like I even bought into it, and then I kind of thought about it. Like I remember watching the Prager U video from Dinesh, and where he went into was like, no, like the Nazis and the fascists were left wing, and I thought about, and like watching his video, and I was like, you know what? He is 100% right. And then like I kind of did a bit of a deeper dive, and I was like, okay, let's like they can say this publicly. Let's check out what they actually did. Let's see which of the modern parties, which of the modern like political alignments that the Nazis and the fascists lined up with. And it's like, okay, well, what did they do? It's like, well, they banned the ability to defend oneself.
Yep.
Okay, that's clearly part of the modern left. They had a strong involvement of the public school or the state-controlled schools. And you were not allowed
to be the parents.
They considered the state to be the parents. You of course remember the Nazi youth.
Yep.
Like these are things and these are elements that our countries, that Canada and the United States, through kind of grooming and through Soji 123 and through all these policies and practices that the liberal governments and the Democrat governments are trying to bring in, these are very, very similar, taking rights away from parents and trying to introduce, saying the state is the predominant influence and the predominant factor in terms of raising and developing these children. The next part, speech. The modern left hates speech. That's why they call it hate speech, because it's speech that the left or speech that the government hates. Whereas the modern right, generally, there are two impressions of the modern right. And you have kind of the libertarian view, which is as long as your speech is not actively calling for people to be harmed or actively threatening, or it's a call to action, or like a call to action, like the pulling the fire alarm or like yelling fire. Like these are actions which can be directly harmful or will lead others directly to harm. So saying things that people disagree with is not harm. You might be offended, but your offense is not harmful to you. It just means that your feelings got hurt. But your feelings do not matter nearly as much as being actually harmed. And so, no, the left aligns with the Nazis on free speech.
It's funny, like one of my favorite comments from one of our mutual friends, Dan Carey.
Yeah.
I'm sure it wasn't him who coined this, but I heard it from him first. He said like Antifa is to fascism what as inflammable is to flammable.
Yep.
And I'm like, yep, pretty much. Yep. And they'll always argue like, it's like, of course we're not fascist. Why else would we be called anti-fascist? I'm like, yeah, you use fascist tactics. You believe pretty much all of the things that the fascists believed.
Oh,
and
man.
Like
I had a guy
smells like a fascist, like quacks like a fascist.
You're
if it's
fascist.
like looks like a fascist, I'm like, it's probably fascist.
Well, I remember there was an interesting interaction that I had, and there was a person who was like super duper defensive and like supportive of the fact that they were a member of Antifa, and they're like, I'm a member of Antifa, and my grandfather was Antifa when he stormed the beaches of Normandy. And I'm like, you have just participated in a type of stolen valor, which is a crime. And he's like, what do you mean? That's not a crime. And I'm like, well, you're saying that you're essentially equivalent to your veteran grandfather, if of course you're alleging this happened,
who actually
served, who actually fought against fascism.
Yeah.
Whereas you are an element and a purveyor of fascist ideologies. Oh man,
your father would probably be storming your beaches.
Yeah. 100%. Anyways, so we've now gone over 2 hours. So a quick reminder. When that dad called Daddy a Nazi, you should have responded, I'm not a socialist.
That would be good. That's
that would have been a pretty good response. Yeah, I'm not a socialist.
Little bit of, like you never respond to their. A lot of times, like it depends. You have to like pick your battles. But when you know that somebody that's not arguing in good faith, you just go for mockery, go for ridicule. Be like, how dare you call me a socialist, you jerk? Like, I ain't no socialist.
Anyways,
and by the way, yeah. Again, I have to remember, socialism is basically a pathway towards communism.
Yes, it is.
Like Nazis are fascists.
Mm-hmm.
They're cousins. They're not the same thing. They're just cousins. They're accomplishing the same thing, just in different ways.
And all of them desire power above all else.
It's true. That's actually what they do. It's like the famous phrase, "The only truth is power."
Yes. So on Thursday, which is of course going to be October the 26th, we will be having our open mic night as the last Thursday of October. So of course you can join on our Discord server. If you want that Discord server, you can message us on Facebook, you can send us an email, or you can send us a message on Twitter or Gitter, and I will send you the Discord link where you can join the audio chat. I haven't really set it up to do video chat. It's primarily audio for now, just because Discord apparently doesn't like video streaming to OBS at this moment.
Yeah.
So if you're wanting to join, if you're wanting to have your opinions heard, then we're going to be talking about a whole bunch of stuff. Whatever comes up on Thursday, and of course all the craziness that's happened in the past month. So if you want to join and have your 2 cents, then we open the doors for you. Bring it on. Let's have the discussions which might not be had in kind of the modern public squares.
I'll see if I can bring the beard.
Oh yeah, bring the beard. That'd be fun. Anyways,
and
yes.
There's no way to do some kind of thing where people can post questions, is there?
Oh, like beforehand?
Chats? Well, even even during the show where they can post questions somewhere. Is there some way where maybe we can get Twitter and just say hey, if you have any questions you want us to answer at the end of the show, put them up on Twitter, and then we'll just go through the most relevant ones, or
they could respond to the link on Twitter.
Yeah,
and I could answer that. That'd be easy enough.
Mm-hmm. Because that would be an easy way to incorporate questions.
Mm-hmm.
And we can literally go through them. And
because it would be hard to keep track of questions if they're sending the questions on. But if the questions are kind of involving and being around the topic that we're discussing in that moment, that it's fine to have them on Twitch. But if they're kind of questions that you missed out on, or questions that are on a completely different topic, and you just sort of want to get our point of view on that, then it'd probably be better to send them on Twitter. And I'm that's a perfectly valid way to approach it.
I think that would be a good way, because then it's easier to find the questions, go through them, because things get lost in the chat.
A question, an exclamation mark, to track questions.
How does that work?
Well,
do you actually know what that is, Steven?
I'm not sure what he's referring to by an exclamation mark. Is a trigger of Twitch events. I did not know that.
Maybe you can
I could look into it.
Yeah, look into it. Talk to Tonka Conqueror. Maybe there's some kind of.
Oh, it's a pin. And then I can manually unpin them at the end of the stream.
Oh, cool.
Okay. So, yeah, that would work. And then I could sort of pin the ones that I can go through.
Interesting. It'd be kind of like super chats.
Yeah. Sort of. It's kind of it's the only thing is that it's somewhat awkward to, because you can only really pin one thing at a time.
Yeah. Well, maybe look into it. Maybe there's a way of of kind of like like navigating that. But yeah, I mean, I like what they do on Timcast, on other kind of podcasts. What they basically have a place where you can send your questions and you can kind of go through it. And they've done that at live events for like Faith Beyond Belief and other places where I've been to conferences where people can text their questions or maybe like, I don't know, put their things on something. So yeah, you can check it out.
All right. So if you are checking out our content, of course, thank you for those who contributed to the live stream. You can check out our other stuff at YouTube, BitChute, and Rumble. Of course, BitChute and Rumble will have the more kind of special content that doesn't raise any YouTube flags. And of course, you can check out our text content at theshrewddudes.com or at Twitter, Gitter, and Facebook. That being said, here at the Shrewd Dudes podcast, we always like to remind you, why be rude when you can be shrewd? We will see you on Thursday for our open mic session. So please be sure to join us at 8 p.m. Mountain Time, which is, of course, 10 p.m. Eastern. And we will have, hopefully, a open and lively discussion and potentially a debate. So we will see. We hope to see you there. Until then, have a great night. And as always, God bless.
Good night, everybody.